All right, good evening, actually. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 6:59, just about 7. Welcome to the Goffstown School Board meeting on Monday, June 15th, 2020. Before we start our agenda, I do need to read the right to know law and take attendance, so just bear with me. As the chair of the Goffstown School Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note, there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. This meeting is being broadcast on local cable access Goffstown, as well as on the Goffstown YouTube channel. If anyone wishes to provide a public comment, please call 603-766-5646, enter participant code 685562. I'm also confirming that we are B, providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously sufficiently posted this information, and this body has consistently followed through on all the requirements pursuing to holding a meeting in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12. In the event the public is unable to access the Zoom meeting due to a widespread system problem, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. We need to take a roll call attendance. When I say your name, say here and if you're alone. Dan Cloutier.
Here, I am alone.
Thank you. Ellen Vermakowitz.
Here and I am alone.
Tim Stetson.
Here and alone.
Susanna Buzel.
Here and alone.
Janelle O'Brien.
Here and alone.
Jared Talbot.
Here and alone.
Ginny McKinnon.
Here and alone.
Retta Chaffee.
Here and alone.
And I'm Heather Trapez, and I'm here and alone. And now we're going to do our administrators. We have Brian Bulkey, Superintendent of Schools.
Good evening, here and alone.
MC Barry, our Assistant Superintendent.
I am here and I'm alone.
Scott Gross, our Business Administrator.
Here and alone, no Denise today.
Steve Bourget, our IT Director.
Here and alone.
And Denise Morin, our Administrative Assistant. Oh,
Here and alone.
thank you, Denise. All right, thank you, everyone. So with that, we can do our pledge. If Scott, you have the flag, if everybody can rise and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag
Of
of
the
the
United States of America,
and
And
to
to
the
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 republic,
republic
Republic
for which it stands,
stands
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice
Liberty
for all.
and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everyone. So I will entertain a motion to approve the June 1st, 2020 board meeting minutes. Denise had sent out a new one on Saturday, so that's the one we want to look at. She highlighted the one little change.
A move to approve. This is Ellen.
Okay, Ellen, do I have a second?
I'll second. This is Susanna.
Okay, Susanna. Does anybody see anything?
There is something
Okay, Denise.
that I noticed under
Okay.
the superintendent's report,
Okay,
where it says executive order, it should be 48, not 148.
okay,
And it should also read that every special ed student has to meet in the first 30 days in the next school year.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Anybody else see anything? All right, so Ellen, you want to
I'll amend
Amend.
that we approve the minutes as amended.
Okay, thank you, Susanna.
I will second that.
All right, thank you so much. Anybody else see anything else? All right, I'll take a roll call. Dan,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes,
Tim,
Yes.
Susanna,
Yes.
Janelle,
Yes.
Jared.
Abstaining.
Okay. Ginny,
Yes.
Retta,
Yes.
and Heather. Yes. So that's 8 yeses and 1 abstention. Denise, did you get that?
Yep.
All right,
thank-
thank you. All right, correspondence. Brian?
Yes, this evening, the agenda lists Executive Order number 48, but it's actually a letter that the New Hampshire School Boards Association and a few other executive professional organizations wrote to Governor Sununu and Commissioner Edelblu. You'll see here, I don't want to go through the whole thing, but I wanted the board to be aware that the New Hampshire School Boards Association was part of this letter. This Executive Order number 48 is going to be a significant challenge for us to meet the compliance requirements within the month of September. So I did want to share that the School Boards Association, as well as the New Hampshire School Administrators Association, has posed a number of questions. And Scott, if you want to just kind of scroll through this, so board members can just kind of take a look. And in its most simplistic form, they've raised a number of questions that districts are struggling with the logistical elements of how they're going to comply with this. And actually, one of the significant things that we're focusing on with our reopening plans include the ability for our special educators and our regular education teachers to hold all of these meetings within the month of September. So it's unfortunate and perhaps a bit paradoxical that we're having meetings to talk about compensatory services, and the only way we're able to do it is to potentially not provide services because we're providing more meetings. So I did want you to just be aware that the School Boards Association has chimed in on this, and if anyone wants a copy of that letter, Scott could send it this evening.
I would like a copy, please.
I think everybody was sent a copy. Did you all get the copy? I know I have a copy.
It went with the agenda.
That's what I thought.
I did read it. Okay.
I have a copy.
All right, if anybody doesn't, just let us know. We can send one.
And that's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Brian. Accommodations and good news. Ginny, go ahead. I see your fingers.
I had a question for Brian. Was that the meetings had to be done in September, Brian, or in June?
It's actually two different parts. So there's the first part that required compliance for eligibility determination for extended school year programming. And
Right.
for the most part, we were already pretty good with that because we had already been having those meetings, and we had a little longer of a window of time, but it's this mandatory meeting within the month, the first 30 days in September, that's really just going to be really problematic. And if you think about you're potentially having teachers that have never met the student before commenting on whether or not they've regressed and that they somehow might need compensatory services. So while I would respectfully agree with the governor in construct, I think that this is a good thing for us to evaluating if students have regressed and may need some compensatory services, but just the logistics of complying with the executive order are very challenging.
I can see that they would be, yes. I do have something to say, and
Okay.
that is as far as commendations go. I thought it was really nice, all of the signs in Goffstown and the grizzly flags that were put up. I thought it looked very festive for the end of the year for all of our kids. All of the schools were represented, and I just thought it looked really cool to have everybody with a sign and a flag, and it was great to have the town support for all of our schools and all of the kids who weren't able to have their regular end of the school activities. So kudos to whomever you know,
That would be Mr. Gross.
Mr. Gross. Nice job.
Yes. Thank you, Jenny. Ellen, go ahead.
Just real quick, did we also put the flags up in Pinardville?
Oh, Scott, you're muted.
There are no flag mounts in Pinardville. at
That's
all.
right. Okay. You're right. I
But
remember.
there's banners. There's a banner on
Yeah,
the corner of
there's a couple
114
of banners that were placed, but there's no place to put them on and you can't technically put them on telephone poles.
No, you can't.
technically,
Okay.
so.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, I would like to say great job to the 4th grade parade and the 8th grade promotion. I don't have a child in either, but I saw videos and I have friends who had kids graduate and they absolutely loved it. Decorating the cars, having the kids see all the teachers. I heard that a lot of parents want to do it again next year, even hopefully we're back in school, because it went off really well. So thank you to all of those people that put that together. That was very nice.
And Heather, if I could just add,
Absolutely, MC.
the Glen Lake parade that they had for the kindergartners. It was a
Okay.
hoot. It was
Oh,
a
I
hoot.
didn't see that. Nice.
So excited. The teachers were so excited. The kids were so excited. One of the dads came through when he was playing Pomp and Circumstance out of his radio. Little graduation hats. It was really very special as well. So
Yeah, well, I think it was nice for all the students to see their teachers. I think that meant a lot to a lot of students and parents. And I heard that some teachers were going, giving awards and doing special things for their students, because we all left in March and nobody got to say goodbye. So it was definitely a very special time.
it was.
Does anybody else have anything to say? Retta, is that
I
your
do.
hand up? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's my hand. It's not very loud, but there it is.
Well, it's on
I
the
had the
edge of the screen.
Yeah, well, I have to place the camera strategically. I had the opportunity to present 2 of the retirement bells last week on behalf of the school board. So it was really rather festive, even though it was all on Zoom. The first one was to Laurel Forcier, who's been teaching for the school system for 26 years. And she actually started in Ware. I didn't quite get it. It was like she was hired by the Goffstown school system, but she was in Ware. So I learned something new, that Ware was at one point part of the SAU 19. Didn't know that.
Yes, it was.
And then and of course, Doug McCurden, who's been teaching 46 years. Of course, I did my math really bad, which I said 26 years, but Frank corrected me on that, because that would make me about 30 years old. So that wasn't so bad. Anyways, if any of you have the opportunity to present these bells in the future, it really is a great opportunity to see the faculty kind of in their environment. We always go first, the formal presentation, but they do some great commemorations to the retirees and recognition of all of the staff that are leaving. So that was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Retta. I agree. It is a lot of fun to give them to our teachers retiring. Anybody else have accommodations? Good news? All right, moving on to public comment. Scott, do we have anybody in the queue? Or any emails? Oh, you're muted, Scott.
There's nobody in the queue. And Denise, I'm unaware of any emails that we've received.
No, I think she's shaking her head
We
no.
didn't get any.
No,
Okay.
okay.
We're all set.
All right, then I am closing public comment. All right, moving on to our presentations. We have a couple of presentations tonight. The first one is to Connect at Summer Camp, and Mrs. Berry will preside that. Go
Well, good.
ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to talk a little bit just about summer school in general. Superintendent has been extremely supportive this year. As soon as we transitioned into connected learning, we began to see that there was going to be a need to provide multiple opportunities this summer for our students. And we have a full wraparound program from kindergarten right on through to the high school. And this year, for the first time, students who are participating in what we call Summer Success or Title I Summer School, NDSY, our focus is going to be to extend the current school year. In the past, a lot of our emphasis has been to prepare children for the next grade, which we will still be doing, but the children are going to stay with their current teachers so that they can continue their growth and pull learning that needs still to happen through trimester 3 and get these kids ready for next year. For Glen Lake this year, for the first time, we're offering a summer success program in addition to ESY for some of the kindergarten students. And at Glen Lake, we have a total of 77 students participating. At Maple Avenue, combined ESY and summer school, we've got 76. At Bartlett, again combined, we've got about 60 students. At Mountain View, we have 88 students participating. Mountain View students in grades 6, 7, and 8 will have an opportunity to join an extended literacy class that we're very excited to offer them this year. At Goffstown High School, we've got just about 135 or so students participating in their summer program. They're offering 3 options this year. For the first time, they're offering what's called course completion. This is to give students who needed more time transitioning to connected learning to be able to move grades from failing to passing during the summer. So they will be working with a certified teacher and will have a minimum of twice weekly face-to-face contact opportunities in order to improve their grades and, more importantly, to get the learning that perhaps they may have struggled with. We're offering traditional summer courses that will meet 4 times a week in a synchronous class time in English, science, social studies, math, and business and health, as well as credit recovery. Those courses are also being offered for students who may want to take the course so that it frees up time for an elective in the next school year. The third thing that we're offering is an enrichment seminar series, and this is the first time we've ever done this. These are opportunities for students who might have attended other academic enrichment opportunities this summer, maybe advanced studies program at St. Paul's, or pre-college programming at a local campus, or even just other academic camps in general. They're offering courses in contemporary issues, in environmental science, in fundamentals of logic, mixed media painting, and musical theater, which that's an interesting one for us this year. And as I said, they've got about 135 or so students participating. And right now we've got well over 430 students who are going to be participating in our summer programs this year. In addition to that, Scott, could I have the screen for just a minute? Because I'd like to show you something that the superintendent supported coming right out of the gate, which are some wonderful enrichment opportunities for our students this summer. Am I good, Scott?
Yeah, I think you should be good.
Okay.
If not, let me know.
Let's see. No, it says I'm disabled here.
Hold on. One second. I'm going to just put this up.
There we go.
You're good?
No, you're sharing your own screen.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to. Usually there's a setting here. Hold on. And I'm not seeing it.
Oh, there it is. I got it now.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So let's see if I can share this. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so let me move you folks over here. So this is our Connected Learning Camp, SAU 19 Connected Learning Camp. There will be 5 weeks of offerings. Every week, a new menu of activities and items will be put up. We have a connection to the Goffstown Public Library for their reading program this summer, as well as for the New Boston Public Library. I'm just going to kind of click us through this. Over here, we have some virtual field trips. These are pretty neat. You click. By the way, this is particularly designed for kindergarten through 8th grade. So here's Mount Vernon. And if you, well, let's go up here to the weather vane and see what we got. So students can click and work their way and learn about, we can go to the study. And it tells you about George Washington's study. And all of these items in here you can click and learn more about. You can go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. How many of you read Where's Waldo books with your kids? Yeah, when they first.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, this kind of
Yes,
reminds me of
definitely.
Where's Waldo, and you click on different items and it loads the page and it gives you fun facts and you can watch different things. This is a Met Kids. This is a little boy who made a video that could be watched. You can discover and imagine, create, and there's more. So this is a nice interactive opportunity, as well as you can go to Ellis Island. Go back here to the main page. We have a lot of STEAM activities, and what I would like you to know is over like 45 of our teachers participated in this. So this is really a homegrown effort. You will see, I will show you in just a minute here, some of our teachers, as well as other activities and things for students to do. Christina Lamson, I got to give her a huge shout out for this. She has just done a magnificent job. She's really the architect behind what you see here. This is interesting. Make your own timeline. This is from the Moose on the Loose, which comes from one of our very favorite residents, Elizabeth DeBrule. She is the mind and brains behind this particular website. And students can make lots of different timelines here, and it can either be about New Hampshire, or you can customize them to other things that you would like to do. And there's an opportunity guides for research and drafting, and you can make it a group project. Proud to give Elizabeth the plug there. Art. This is a community connection with one of our very own
Did we lose sound?
Did you lose sound?
Yes.
Oh. Okay, sorry about that. I guess the sound doesn't come through.
You have to share it to get separately. You have to click on present with sound, but
Okay,
it's okay.
hang on. So this is one of our support staff members. This is Mrs. Mason, Heather Mason. And again, you're not going to get the sound. I'm going to move her along. And this would be for our kindergartners or preschoolers. So we've got every age covered here. So that's another place. Oh, I wanted to go to physical education. Scott, can you show me maybe how to get some of the sound on these?
I think you have to enable that in your, hold on a second.
I won't take too much longer if it's a. So this is Mr. Garrity. And there's some fun music with it, but okay. So many of those things that you will see, this is, Mr. Balke, this was one of your favorites. Whoops. This is an obstacle course that kids can make on their own in their home or outside. Okay, let me go back home here. And then we have stories read by our teachers. If you were to click on this, and I'm not going to play them because it's without the sound. But we've got some of our own teachers that are reading stories. So as I said, every week there will be more and more added to this. 5 weeks worth of content. And one of the things that Brian particularly wanted was that these activities not be all paper pencil, that they be active, that they are things that kids, can kind of get up and do, and you could do maybe on a rainy day or at any other time. So I cannot thank Christina enough. We can't thank our staff enough. As I said, over 40 teachers plus donated their time, and we have more things to be put up that are still coming in this week. So we just want to thank you so much for your support for the summer programs and for all of these activities. And there's going to be a lot of fun stuff for the kids to do. We're excited.
Wow, that's great, MC. Thank you. Ginny, you have a comment?
Yeah. I think they're absolutely amazing. And if I were a kid, I would love to be doing them. And I might love to do them as an adult. But a lot of hard work I can see, and a lot of imagination went into those. They're really great. I have a question, and that is, do you have to have a student account to access those, or can you get in through the public library?
It's going to be posted right on the SAU 19 website.
Okay.
So it's going to be available, Ginny. If you can access the website, you can get to the activities. Don't have to have a student account. And also, I neglected to mention that on one of the first times that Brian announced this, that he received an email asking that the materials be made available so that if parents wanted to be prepared to do some of these things. So Christina has put together a list, and the required materials, paints, those kinds of things will also be ready and out at the same time. So yeah, it's going to be fun. I think, Ginny, we're excited.
Sounds like so much fun for the summer. Really.
I think so. I think so.
Summer camp at home.
Right.
Yeah, let's hope, huh?
Thank you, Jenny. Anybody else have anything they want to say to MC? Questions, comments? Okay, I'm seeing none. Thank you, MC. That
You're
looks
welcome.
amazing. And I like that it's available to anyone that wants to try it out.
Yep, all the kids in SAU 19.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So moving on to the ESSER Cares, Brian?
Yeah, so we just wanted to have, we've talked about this, I've raised this a couple of different times. And since we have Mr. Bourget on the phone, on the call this evening, we again just wanted to give a very brief overview of what our intent to use this, just to provide a little background information. This is the Elementary and Secondary Education Recovery and Reinvestment Act, and we are getting $276,000 of unanticipated money that we can use for certain projects. And Mr. Bourget has a plan that I think board members will appreciate, that Steve is looking to invest this money in technology. So that's one of the allowable grant activities. So between Mr. Bourget, Mrs. Barry, and Mr. Gross, I'll open it up. But Steve, if you could just give a little bit of an overview of what you were thinking with this grant project, please.
Okay. So one of the biggest challenges that we've had with connected learning is getting additional devices home to families. We bought a slew of Chromebooks, we sent them home, but we were averaging at best one device per family for groups of up to 4 kids, which worked, but did not work well. So we're looking at ways of getting more technology into families' homes in order for kids to use them. One thing that we had discussed is we have a lot of cart computers at the high school that are getting up towards the end of their life that eventually are going to need to be rolled into CIP to be replaced. So with the conversation with Scott, one of the proposals were take the cart computers that are towards the end of their life, send them home for families to use, and use the CARES dollars to replace the cart computers. That way we don't have the tax impact going forward of having to replace those devices. So we think we can replace somewhere in the ballpark of 12 to 13 mobile carts worth of computers in Goffstown, freeing up and sending home close to 400 computers that are currently in carts that are getting towards the end of their usable life. They're mostly the off-lease MacBook Pros that are getting close to 7 to 8 years old, but are still in active service.
Great.
So Steve, just in terms of the total scope of the project, the replacing the laptops, those are CIP items.
Yep.
So that would mean using these grant monies. When Mrs. Vermakowitz goes through the CIP process, she can get an updated spreadsheet that will be able to take those projects off. Is it primarily the 276 grand for laptops, Steve?
Yeah, primarily it's going to be laptops.
Did you have some software in there too?
Yeah, I'm going to buy licenses for Microsoft Office, licenses for the FileWave management suite that we use to manage those, but that's pretty much it. We will also look at replacing some of the aging physical carts to store them in. Some of the Bretford carts that were purchased specifically for a MacBook, which is not going to charge an HP laptop, which is what we're looking at purchasing.
So really, at this point, I think Mr. Bourget is getting close, but we just wanted to make sure that the board was in support of using this money for the technology purchases. And really, it's twofold. It's replacing the sort of end-of-life units, but then it's being able to repurpose those to families who may need it if we're not back fully in the brick and mortar structure in the fall.
Okay. Thank you,
So
Brian. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to open it up if there were any questions.
Yes, I see Retta. Go ahead, Retta.
So usually when computers are at the end of life, don't they usually get cycled down to the lower schools?
Steve?
Traditionally, it's been 2 parts. Some of them have been cycled down to the lower schools. I have in Goffstown these MacBook Pros. There are about 500 of them scattered throughout the district, everywhere from Goffstown High School all the way down to Bartlett Maple Ave Elementary. So I think there's I want to say like 125 of them still in service at the high school. I want to say there's over 100 of them in service at Bartlett, Maple is pretty close to that count as well. I'm sorry, Mountain View is 100 and something. There's a lot of them that are still in play. And the goal with this would be to take that generation of machines and look to replace them, knowing that they're already 8 years old. And getting batteries for 8-year-old computers is going to keep them in service several more years is going to get expensive. Whereas if they go home and they sit on a desk plugged in, we shouldn't have that issue.
And the other question I had is, I think it's great we're able to get this technology to the families. I'm wondering to what extent supporting them, sometimes families aren't Mac users, and of course you've sent back Chromebooks. Have we found that families are able to adapt to the use of those devices?
We have not run into that many issues with it. We have sent some MacBooks home. Our biggest challenge with some of the MacBooks that have gone home is people have tried to install titles that were not school software titles, which they had to come back to get reimaged. But that was about the extent of it, trying to use them beyond what the schoolwork was intended for.
Okay, thanks.
Retta, I think, if I may, one of the other things that we're looking to potentially or to hope to remedy is we've put out iOS and Android devices. Steve, chime in when ready. And browsers. So when you have different devices with different browsers and you start to talk about accessibility, it starts to become really interesting. And as hard as we've tried to get information out that says, if you have a Chromebook and you're using Chrome, this is what you do. And if you have an iPad and you're using Safari, this is what you now need to do. So we're trying to work with our staff to get them to create documents, websites, et cetera, that are compliant with the accessibility guidelines. But we also, it's been a little bit of a struggle to try to help families with the tools, knowing what tool to use with which browser and then which device. So this will help with that. Steve, is that accurate?
Yep.
Thank you, MC. Dan, I saw your hand up, and then Ellen. But
I have
Dan?
two questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Steve, as we migrate away from carts and potentially hand these devices off directly to students, the expectations are the people, the students who weren't bringing laptops into school, because we're not going to have them on the carts anymore if we hand them out. You see where I'm going with the question? What are we going to do there?
Well, Dan, we're still going to keep carts. So what the goal is, we're replacing the computers that are in the carts in the buildings, and we're sending these devices home for use for the duration of connected learning. Once we come back in on site, these devices that we sent home will be retired from service.
Okay, that makes sense. And if, as a continuation, if we have a bifurcated learning system, that may pose an additional challenge, I would think, if the individuals who have been assigned one of those devices aren't in school, so they won't be in the cart.
We're sending the 8-year-old MacBooks home for the carts. The new purchased computers are going to be in the building replacing those MacBooks.
So we're not really retiring anything. We're just going to have more stuff available.
We're going to have more stuff available, and then when we come back, all the devices that are at the end of their usable age will be happily retired, and we won't impact the taxpayers to have to replace them.
Super. So sorry, Ellen, one more question. So what else are these funds available to purchase?
So we could, MC, you want to take that one?
Oh, well, I've been so focused on the technology component part of this. If I'm not, and boy, I don't want to misspeak. I think that it could be used.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
so
please.
I think we have flexibility that we could, if we were looking to hire, let's say, additional staff or additional nurses, or if we had additional transportation costs. I think any sort of COVID-related costs, you're able to apply for them, and the department will work with you whether that's an allowable cost or not. What they did that was a little unusual, Dan, was they pre-populated activities in the grant management system where they have things that were already approved. So we can go in and essentially in a drop-down menu, choose things that are already pre-approved, like purchasing technology. They normally don't have those, but I do think we have fairly broad flexibility of how we're able to use this money. Scott, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I would say you're 100% right. There were certain categories of expenditures that were pre-approved, technology being obviously the no-brainer. But again, you could use it for staffing. You can use it for PPE. It was fairly expansive in terms of the list. In speaking with Steve, and he mentioned it, we've been talking about this for the last, at least month. And when we were talking about our CIP, and Ellen's representing us on that committee, we had quite a few items that were technology related in terms of replacing laptop carts and computers in the classroom. So we thought that this would be a really good way of trying to solve two problems. One, in the short term, getting some of our end of life technology to students to use next year, and also then replacing our technology that's kind of out of date. So we thought of it as a win-win.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Dan, do you have anything else before I let Ellen talk?
No, this is great to just understand the scope of what could happen, so that if anyone comes back, says, how much did we look at? This is probably a very beneficial area for us to dive into, because it plays a role to help us in either situation.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Ellen, go ahead. I know you had your hand up.
It's okay, thank you. This is just replacing the carts and the computers related to the carts throughout the district, is what I'm understanding. It is not addressing media center and computer labs.
That is correct.
That are also on the CIP. It's not
correct.
addressing those. Okay. Is our district working? I have no idea if we're doing this or not, toward a one-on-one?
No.
No.
Not at all? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Jared, I saw your hand.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. I want to address something that actually Ellen just said. In the fiscal year budget for 2021, we have $35,000 to replace one computer lab. It's a computer science lab, and this was a point of discussion for the budget committee, because we're now, or at that time, we were incorporating what would have been CIP items within our budget for replacement. And our strategy at that time was to continue to move that forward for year-over-year budget. So I'm getting confused on what we're listing in CIP versus what we're expecting to put within our budget that would be approved by the budget committee and move forward to our voters. So why is there a differentiation of using these funds for that work versus including it in our budget? And again, this was a point of contention within the budget committee that I know we're going to have year over year as we move forward.
Can I respond to that one?
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
All right. So CIP is a planning tool, and it looks at what expenses do you anticipate including in your budgets going forward. And we recognize that you're absolutely right, Jared, that we had computer labs at both our high school and middle school that are going to need replacement. And we put those in our CIP listing. We also put the replacement of our laptop carts in CIP. Again, knowing that we're going to include those in our budget in future years. What we're proposing here is to use these funds to replace many of the laptop cart replacements, which we have put in our CIP over the next 3 years. So we would, in essence, be we wouldn't have to budget for those carts, because we would be using grant funds to purchase them, which I think is a good thing. It reduces, that burden. Now, we're doing that with the carts. We're not doing that with our computer lab. So again, we have one lab that we're replacing in this coming budget cycle. And I would anticipate that we would probably propose the same thing in terms of our budget for FY 21-22, because we have other labs in the high school and in the middle school that warrant a replacement due to age.
Thank you, Scott. Jared, do you have anything
Yeah, so
else?
if I follow up, so
Yeah.
basically, Scott, from what you've stated, we're looking to accelerate some of those CIP items and knock those off while continuing to carry roughly a $35,000 yearly budget for replacement of technology.
You said it in one sentence and I took 14. So yes, thank you.
Ms. Chair, if I may follow up on a different line of question.
Sure, go ahead.
I know that recently we've had to transfer a lot of money based on state requirements for technology. Have we satisfied all of those pieces that are needed to secure? I don't know, and I'm looking for Brian or Steve to help me out, but are there some remaining items based on some House bill that was passed that we need to incorporate into our future budgets?
Steve?
I'm trying to think. There's some small items that are in there, but most of them, I believe, are going to be addressed through items existing in next year's, but in the upcoming fiscal year budget related to that House Bill 1612. The only items that are remaining that would have to be budgeted, Jared, are things like a network penetration test and security audit, which I don't think the COVID dollars would apply to.
Yeah, I concur with you on that, Steve. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jared. Anyone else have any questions? So, oh, Janelle, I'm sorry, you had your hand up before. Go ahead.
I just had a quick question about the computers going home. With them being older, I'm a little concerned the kids will be having difficulty with, computers crashing or systems not booting properly or whatever could go wrong. I just wanted to make sure that, before those kids get those computers are we taking a look at each one of these computers, making sure that they're all ready to rock and gonna, not cause more frustration than good.
Yes, so they are all actively in use in mobile carts. They have been maintained, but before they go home, they do run through the Apple Service Diagnostic Kit to make sure that there are no outstanding issues. Typically, our life expectancy on the devices, we keep them for between 8 and 10 years. They've hit the 8-year mark, which is the point where you start looking to replace. I know that we went through this year, we bought a lot of batteries to try to keep them alive. So we should be good hardware-wise, but they will all be tested before they go out.
Great. And if I could follow up, if say one of the batteries does die, would we spend the money for a new battery or just give them a new computer that you're replacing? What would we have that?
It depends on whether it's a cost-effective repair. If someone dropped the laptop and shattered the screen, I would not try to repair it. If they're looking for a battery issue, if I can get a good battery on Amazon made in China, I hate to say, for $30, which we did for some of them, I would probably just order the part and have one of my techs replace it. So it just depends on if it's a cost-effective repair.
Great, thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Janelle. Susanna, I saw your hand up.
Yes, I have a quick question. Do you have the software loaded on it and it's ready to go for the students so they won't have any software issues?
These devices that we would be sending home are currently in carts. They are licensed for all the software titles used in the corresponding buildings. So they have the browsers, the Microsoft Office licenses, and the grade level applications already installed and licensed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I just have a quick question. Are we saving any of the money for extra things? Brian, you had mentioned if we needed PPE or nurses, are we using the full 276 for technology, or are we saving some of it?
I think we'd probably hold on to some of it. So I think we'd probably look to Steve for kind of a, maybe about a half purchase to start, and then maybe kind of another quarter of the purchase as we get a little closer towards fall, winter. But we'll have to evaluate whether we think we might have some additional expenses. Mr. Gross will share the probably one of the biggest areas that we have concerns about is transportation. So if we are potentially looking at increased runs, providing more runs for elementary and middle school students, we're going to have costs associated with that, as well as there's a new requirement for busing kindergartners. So we're a little concerned, and I think the other area that Mr. Gross would share would be food service, that if we are not at full capacity, our ability to pay for all of our staff through offsetting revenue as an enterprise fund will be a concern for us. Scott, would you add anything else?
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, we know we have certain costs that are could come about with regard to responding to COVID-19 and what our structure will be in the fall. In some cases, there might be an offsetting savings like we had in the last 3 months of this school year, but in other cases we might not. So I think we have to take a measured, approach to that. So I think we have the 2.5% contingency fund as well. But again, this is going to be a year where we have to take small steps.
Right. Thank you, Scott. Brian, do you need a motion or was this just an informational?
I think at this point, I would be comfortable with just moving forward. The board's given us the ability to do that. So we just wanted to make sure that everyone was in support with how we're conceptualizing this grant project and to be able to answer any questions. And, I'll leave it up to Scott and Stephen where they want to start and how deep they want to go, how soon. I know that if we're not reopen at full capacity, that Stephen would really like to get these devices home to families who are going to need them.
Right. Okay. Does anybody else have anything else to say, ask before we move on? No, I don't see anything. All right. Well, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. And Steve, I'm going to mention the House Bill 1612 piece. So if you want to stick around until I do my superintendent's report, if you wouldn't mind.
No problem.
Great. Thank you.
All right. So moving on to committee reports. Scott, that's you with the manifest and vouchers.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. And as many of you saw in the email I sent you with regard to this last Friday, this is a very large manifest. The reason being is we have a very large payroll, taxes, and benefits. This is the month in which we pay what's called balloon payments to our teachers. So we're basically paying them during the last pay of this month, and it's their pay that would have rolled over into the summer if they were on a 26 paycheck scenario. So with that, you have payroll, taxes, and benefits of $3,358,801.98. In terms of your special education activity, you have $10,800 with core. Manchester School District is for special education and homeless transportation reimbursements, almost $6,500. Boothby, $7,000. Multiple students for May, and then Maxim is a special education teacher, supplemental teacher at Bartlett, $6,300. Your general expenses, Goffstown Truck Center. So this is your billing for the remainder of the year. We did get about a 40% credit on the May and June bills with regard to both fuel and a driver credit. So that's almost 157,000. Northeast Door, almost 63,000. This was a safety grant, and you're going to be signing off on this. We're going to be sending you some documents that you have to sign off on in the next couple of weeks to get reimbursement on this grant. So these were safe security locks at all of our schools. Town of Goffstown, those are sewer fees for the schools that have Goffstown sewer. E-Plus Technology, almost 13,000. You'll recall that we purchased licenses for what's called soft phone technology, which allows the teachers and staff to use their laptops as a telephone to eliminate the need for them to use cell phones and the caller ID issues, things like that. New Hampshire Fisher Cats, that's $11,500. That's for graduation. That's occurring on Wednesday.
Scott, can I just clarify on that?
Yep.
Part of that is going to be reimbursed by the class.
Yeah, so there's going to be part of that. Couple $1,000 will be reimbursed from the class for fireworks. So they have donated that as part of their graduation ceremony. So I just wanted to let you know, but we had to pay it up front. Edmentum is our GAP software licenses for an online curriculum. That's an every year expense. Eversource is your electricity. And Follett is predominantly Mountain View Middle School, their media. And it was, I'd say 75% digital books. And then the rest were just, regular book, paper books. There were no food service invoices over 5,000. And I'm available for any questions.
All right, thank you, Scott. Can you go back to the screen for, I can see everybody. I can't.
Yeah, hold on.
If anybody has a question. All right, anybody have a question for Scott? Oh, Ellen, go ahead. I see your hand.
Yeah. I think I just heard you say we were ordering books. We don't have kids in school. Why did we order books?
Kids will be in school, hopefully, next school year. So this is library books?
So this is ordering for next year,
Correct.
the next school year.
Yeah, and yes, exactly. I mean, you're trying, how do I put it? The library orders throughout the year, the media centers.
Okay.
So they order this year, they order next year. They're ordering all throughout the year to supplement, their collection. Sometimes things go, how do I put it? They cycle out. So they're constantly updating their inventory of books and digital books.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Anyone else before we take a motion?
I want to bring it back on the screen so you can see the number, or is that helpful?
It just didn't make sense to me. I'm sorry that, because haven't been in school for what, 2/3 of at least half the year. So why there'd be new books being ordered, I don't know, but okay.
All right, does anybody want to make a motion to move this manifest?
Dan has a motion for it if you'd accept it.
Yes, Dan, thank you.
I'd like to move that we approve the June 15th, 2020 manifest in the amount of $3,718,259.34.
Thank you, Dan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is that Tim? Because I can't see everyone.
Yes. Yep, that's Tim.
All right, thank you, Tim. All right, I have a motion, I have a second. I'm going to take a roll call unless someone else has something to ask Scott. All right, Dan?
Dan is yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Susanna?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Retta? Yes. And Heather, yes. We're unanimous, Denise. Thank you. All right, Scott. You have expenditures?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I shared with you, and I think Judy sends it out as well, but I wanted to just see if there were any questions with regard to the expenditure reports or the revenue reports. I would say that our expenditures are tracking where I thought that they would be in terms of having about, I think at the end of the day, we're probably going to have about $1 million of unspent monies, maybe a little bit higher than that, 1.3 million in terms of unspent budget dollars. On the revenue side, we're looking at $600,000 to $700,000 more in revenues than we anticipated. But I just want to know if there were any questions. We typically go over that in our A&F meetings, but I was wondering if anybody had any questions with regard to expenditures or revenues.
Thank you, Scott. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm looking at the revenue, the anticipated revenue total, Scott.
Yeah.
And what have we not yet booked without going through each individual line for me to do? You can just tell me.
Yeah, so the real big one is the 1320, which is your tuition from New Boston. So that's a biggie, because right now it shows that we had budgeted 1.8 million, and we're probably going to get 2.3 to 2.4 million in terms of that. So that's a biggie. I would also say in terms of dollars, although we changed our revenue budget on Medicaid reimbursement, I wanted to let the board know that this is another one of these unintended consequences of some things. We have historically budgeted almost $300,000 in Medicaid reimbursement. This year, I think we dropped it down to like, I think 50 or 75,000. And we're right around there. So because they changed the rules, which required a pretty much a physician or a licensed nurse practitioner to sign off on these services that are provided, we took a really, really big hit on our Medicaid reimbursement. Now we've started to reapply for that, and we're doing it with the oldest ones first. But we had about a 6 month, and I think if I get some help from Brian on this, I think it was like a 6 month layover in terms of not being able to submit Medicaid reimbursements. And we're starting to do that now. So hopefully next year we'll see greater amounts in that revenue source, Stan. But we took a big hit, on that one.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, so I think those were the biggies. We also saw a little bit more in our investment income than what we had budgeted for. We did switch to a higher yield checking account, and we'll talk a little bit about that when we do the investment policy, but we're getting a little bit higher yield there, but it was a lot more than what we thought we were going to get. So that was, Laura deserves credit on that when she renegotiated our bank. She renegotiated in terms of getting us a different type of checking account.
Right. All right. Well, thank you, Scott. Is there anything else? Any other questions, Scott? Dan, are you set?
I am good, thank you.
All right. Great. All right. Well, if we're good with the expenditure and revenue reports, we'll move on to the technology expense discussion. You should have received a little insert from Scott, and Adam is here to answer any questions you may have. So go ahead, Scott, if you want to talk about
sure.
that.
I'll share it with you just on the screen. So just to refresh everyone's memory here. So we have been talking about this type of device probably for the last year or two with regard to the ability to remotely broadcast from any location. And it really came to the forefront when we were talking about the graduation at Fisher Cat Stadium. And it really came to the forefront when we were looking at all of these parades that we were doing for our students, and really no ability to do that live for grandparents and relatives across the country. In our budget, as I mentioned in my memo, we have $8,500 in our co-curricular line, of which about $1,500 of that is for equipment. The proposal here would be to use that co-curricular budget line to purchase this live device. And Adam can kind of speak to it from a technology point of view. But essentially what it does in layman's terms, it allows us to broadcast remotely any place where there is a Wi-Fi, Ethernet, or most importantly, a cellular type signal. And in terms of the uses for this, obviously all those events that I had just mentioned to you, when you think about the any type of an athletic event, let's say for an example in the fall or in the winter, there are certain sports that might take place, but there's no ability to have an audience, or there's no, in some cases you're seeing that there's professional sports, but yet there's no audience allowed. This would allow us to have a broadcast team there, and they'd be able to broadcast it via GTV, Facebook, YouTube, and family members and friends from anywhere, Goffstown to across the country, anywhere in the world could essentially tap into it and watch that, whether it be a concert or an athletic event. So I'm going to turn it over to Adam. Adam, you know more the nuts and bolts of this than I do. The other thing that I know Brian and I had talked about is we do a lot. Obviously, Adam is a GTV employee. He also works, part-time for the district. That being said, this has a lot of applications for the town. I would probably envision the town might buy one of those, what do you call it, for lack of a better word, the encoder for maybe their own use, because you can have it on one on each channel type of thing going live. But for emergency management purposes, I think we're going to get a lot of use out of this, and we just wanted to let the board know that, again, this is something that was in the co-curricular. The money is there in the co-curricular budget. This is where we were going to get this device to help us with our current needs, and obviously thinking about the future. But we just wanted this for awareness purposes, and if the board has any questions, wanted to let you know what we were thinking about doing.
Thank you, Scott. And this is what we're borrowing from Bedford for our graduation, correct?
Actually, we can't borrow Bedford's because Bedford's goes right to their studio.
Oh, okay.
And that's one of the problems, is that this device that Adam has doesn't go directly to the studio. It can go directly to Facebook Live, YouTube. Yeah, it goes directly to those platforms. You don't need to bounce it to a station first, but Bedford's goes right to their station.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Adam or Scott? I don't see anything. So do you need a motion, or this was?
No, I think that, again, this is something that I'm not saying it's something different. It's within our budget line, but something that we just wanted to bring to your attention.
Okay.
All right.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much. All right, so moving on to the high school gym floor.
Okay,
Go
so
ahead,
Randy
Scott.
was gonna speak to this. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it tonight. So let me try to give you a little bit of background as to what we're dealing with. Last October, we had a leak in one of the water bubblers in the high school gym, and that happened. Luckily, Justin Huff was around at the time. It happened over a weekend. We notified a contractor, but what happened was it caused damage to about 150 to 200 square feet of gym floor. So those of you who've been in the high school gym, you'll see that there's a discolored area, which is next to where that water bubbler was. So water leaked out of that water bubbler and caused damage to the wood floor, requiring us to replace that part of the wood floor, and then we had to re-polyurethane it. We thought that was the extent of it, because what happened was we did testing all around that wet area, and nothing was wet except for the area that was replaced. Justin, Frank, and others noticed that December, January, I would say, February, when during the basketball season, that there was an area underneath the basketball hoop, which is the one that will be closest to the gym entrance. And it started to look like the floor was cupping slightly. And we at one point it was getting a little bit worse. Nothing that we thought we would have a safety issue, but then it got to a point where it was getting really close to being a safety issue, and then it kind of stopped. It did not get any worse, but you can definitely see cupping there. And if you were to slide your foot alongside the floor, it kind of ripples. Randy had a flooring contractor go out and look at it about week or two ago, and it was his opinion. He did what's called penetration testing, where they put a probe into the wood and with a sensor, and it was reading the high end of the moisture reading for a wood floor, which is around 16% moisture content, and it was reading that, which is not good. Anything higher than that, the wood floor is pretty much compromised. So this gentleman, that he also said that he repaired a similar area, the floor, like I think it was 10 years ago. And he believes that when we had the flooding from the back end of the high school, that because it's a low point in the floor, water kind of settled there. And that's what's causing the cupping of the hardwood. He has estimated this to be about $50,000 for a repair. And I know that's kind of a shocking number. One of the reasons why it's so high is that not only do they have to replace the hardwood, but they also now have to repaint all of the lines in the gym to, because you're taking up what's called the paint, which is the area by the free throw line, and all those lines are all coming up. You'd essentially have to repaint strip everything down and repaint it. And that's a substantial cost. I reached out to, so there's good news and there's bad news. So the good news is that I've reached out to Primex, because when the incident happened in October, we put in an insurance claim and they paid that claim. They have since reopened their claim, and they're going to be coming out and inspecting it, I'm hoping this week, with the flooring contractor. So there is a possibility that Primex will honor this and it'll be part of our insurance claim from October, and they'll simply reopen it. If they decide that it's not something that's not covered, if let's hypothetically say that it wasn't part of that incident, it was a groundwater type issue, which is not covered under your policy, then that's something that we're going to have to pay for. So my recommendation to the board is to, this is something that we need to address in the summertime. We can't wait until the fall. So my recommendation, since you're not going to meet again until more than likely late July or early August, would be to, I guess, make a contingent motion, which would allow me, or to give me or Brian the approval to, if we get it, if we go through insurance, that's fine. And we've already paid our deductible, they're going to pay it. But if they don't, and we have to incur a $50,000 cost, I would think that this would come out of our capital reserve fund. And, we already have, we're going to deposit $200,000 into it come July 1 anyway. And this is something that is, how do I put it? It's almost non-negotiable. It's something that we must do. It's a safety issue. And it just has to happen. And it really should happen in the summer while nobody's in the school.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Does anybody have any questions for Scott? If not, we can go ahead and get a motion going. All right, I don't see any questions, so Scott needs a motion to have this go forward. Ellen?
Yes, I'll move that, if need be, if the insurance doesn't cover it, that we use up to $50,000 to repair the gym floor at the high school and use the money out of the CRF.
Thank you, Ellen. Scott, is that good?
Yeah, I have no concern with that. If
Okay.
for some reason we'll know if it's 52,500, I'll come back and I'll let you know for for that additional authority. But Randy said that he had it was a $50,000 quote from the gentleman.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Do I have a second? Was that you, Ginny, with the second? Okay. All right, so I have a motion. I have a second. Oh, Jared, do you have a question before I do roll call?
As this is coming out of the CRM, how much money do we currently have in there? Or is this something that we're looking to potentially pay after July 1st when the deposit?
Yeah, Jared, we would be paying it after July 1st. We're also looking, we have about $98,000 in the account right now, but also keep in mind that we authorized about $40,000 of that to do the rear stairs at the high school. So there'll probably be about $50,000 left in that account after that project is done. So with the July 1st deposit, we'll have $250,000, and then in the worst scenario, we'd be looking to use $50,000, for this project.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, thank you. Oh, Ellen, go ahead.
Yeah, not knowing what has caused this damage definitively, that is the cupping of the floor, what can we do to make sure this isn't happening again? It seems like the gym floors in our schools are starting to sound like many times our roof repairs do. It keeps coming back.
It's the gift that keeps giving. And
yes, and I'm wondering.
I spoke to Primex about this, and it's interesting, Ellen. They told me that gym floors, it's probably one of their highest incidents of claims all across the state, all across the area. When you think about it, A lot of gyms do have, water bubblers for kids to drink water, after they're practicing or they're playing a game. We have since removed the bubbler from the gym. And we also have sensors in terms of, if you remember when we had the flooding, so we do have sensors as well. We've done drainage work out back. So in terms of the flooding component, that work has alleviated the flooding concern, because that was one of the issues. The only thing that we don't know is whether or not there's some high water table or subsurface type water issue. But there's also, I forgot what the term is. There's like a vapor barrier, moisture barrier. And then the hardwood floor itself is on what's called a sleeper system, where it's an elevated system. But if water gets trapped underneath that hardwood, it just sits there because there's no place to go. And I think that's what the flooring contractor suspects.
Interesting. So this is happening in the original gym, not in the addition?
This is in the original. Well, the original gym was the original gym.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second, so I'm going to do a roll call. Dan?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Susanna?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Retta? I think she said yes. Okay. And Heather, yes. So we're unanimous. Thank you, Scott. And then we have a policy DFA, which is an investment policy. Policy states the board will review annually.
Yeah, so this one, we're going through what's called a pre-audit. So Plodzik and Sanderson came in last week. And one of the things that we have to do on an annual basis is for all of the boards to basically readopt their investment policy. And so essentially what that is, I don't know, has everyone had a chance to take a look at that? Nothing has changed in it. I think Tim has a question. I'm sorry.
Tim, go ahead. Or is that just, yes, you did see it?
No, I was going to say for this conversation, I will have to recuse myself.
Okay. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Did you get that, Denise? Okay. All right, go ahead, Scott.
So for the most part, we have to ensure that there's safety, liquidity, and yield in terms of our investments. We do not invest any of district funds in any type of securities. It is simply all of our money is held in a TD bank account, and that TD bank account is insured by the FDIC for only $250,000. However, we have collateralization through the Mellon Bank for all amounts above that. So if we carry a balance, let's say of a monthly balance of $3.5–4 million, again, I'd call that kind of like your float or your balance in your account. 250,000 of that is insured by the FDIC, and then the other amounts are insured by the Mellon Bank. So that provides that level of safety and security, knowing that your money is insured, for lack of a better word. We don't invest in anything in terms of any types of CDs, money markets, et cetera. Now, TD Bank, we have what's called an interest-bearing checking account, very similar to what some of you may have. As I said, Laura negotiated a new type of relationship checking account, which gets us a higher yield in terms of interest on that account. But that is the extent of our, I guess, investment, if you will. And in terms of the investment account, the other thing that you should be aware of, and I know Dan is, because Dan is the treasurer for the SAU, but we do have a system of what's called internal controls, meaning that we have multiple people that are reviewing our bank statements, reviewing when payments are made. And we also have an independent auditor who also reviews all of those transactions. So that's, one of the reasons why you sign manifests and you have, let's say this was the SAU, someone like Dan, who is your treasurer, approving your payments, is that you've got multiple layers of both employees, board members, superintendent, independent auditors, all looking at your finances, and making sure that the money is secure and that it is handled, appropriately in terms of what your board has authorized. And that's really essentially about it. What I'm going to do is I've talked to Denise about this, and I think, Denise, we talked about either in April or in May of every year, we're going to put this on the agenda, and we're going to readopt this particular policy each and every year. If there's ever any changes to it, then we'll go through the policy committee.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Dan, I saw your hand.
Yeah, my question actually goes back to Tim. In the RSA, it says if you have a fiduciary direct connection for any investments that these would do that you would financially benefit, you would recuse yourself. And I know you didn't give us a description of why you're recusing yourself, but I'm kind of interested.
Because I'm a licensed Series 66 investment advisor with Fidelity, and my company does not allow me to comment or to be part of these conversations. Also, I'll get fired, and I prefer my job.
Yeah, it's interesting. I happen to know a couple of people that work in the securities business, Dan, and one of them, we don't even talk about it when we're doing our on-air broadcasting because he does not want to get in trouble. So
interesting.
I think this is something where employers are asking board members or people who are in the public eye to refrain from commenting on these types of things.
Okay. And just as a comment on that, so one of our most educated person in the area of these types of finances can't comment. That's a comment towards your company, but okay.
Thanks, Dan. All right. So, Scott, do you need anything from us?
No, I think this will be a motion to, I would need a motion to readopt or reaffirm policy DFA.
Okay, thank you.
This is Ellen. I move that we reaffirm policy DFA.
Thank you, Ellen. Is there a second?
Dan will second that.
Thank you, Dan. All right, I'm going to do a roll call unless someone else had a question. Oh, go ahead, Jared.
Just, Ms. Chair, just because we are reaffirming a policy, this would be after the broad authorization we gave the superintendent for the rest of the school year. Would we need to reapprove that broad authority that Brian would have because we are voting on a policy?
I don't think so, Jared. I mean, this is something that is an audit type requirement that boards readopt / reaffirm their investment policy. I don't think it would need to be done again in the fall.
Okay, Dan, go ahead.
Just for giggles, I think that we said it only goes through today anyway. We're going to have to make that to give Brian the rest of the summer to continue to do what he's doing. If it's not on the list here, I thought that was something that expired today.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
I just didn't see it on the agenda either.
I didn't either.
You're right, but it's a good thing you brought it up because we need.
Oh, you're breaking up, Dan.
Yeah, because my finger keeps hitting the mute button.
Oh,
I think we're going to have to run that motion. Because only Mrs. Moore, and I mean, if we look back at the notes, I think the note ended up. I'd rather be safe than sorry and just make that same motion we've been making to give the.
Okay.
And
I will.
All
right, so let's do
a vote on this.
Let's do a vote on this, and then we can do another motion for the policy. So go ahead, Ellen.
If I remember correctly, I think I was the one that made the motion at the last meeting, and it went through to our August meeting.
That's what I thought, to our August meeting.
Yeah, it didn't end tonight. It went through to August.
But that wasn't for policy, right?
Then I'm okay with that if that's what it was. My recollection can be off a bit.
All right, well, let's do the roll call for this so we can close this out. So I have a motion, I have a second. Dan?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Tim? Oh, you're recusing. Susanna?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Ginny,
Yes.
Retta,
Yes.
and Heather, yes. So we had 8 yeses, Denise. All right, so do we know if,
Denise, can you take a look at the minutes and see what the date of the authorization was?
I'm looking at them too.
On your screen now.
I think we had several authorizations, so
Yeah, well, we had conduct business, hire,
the bids.
the
No,
bid,
further up, Scott.
capital projects.
Authorization.
There wasn't anything for policies.
No, but to conduct business over the summer months.
Right.
Nothing to do. I don't think we're talking about policies. I think we're talking about authorizing the administration to continue doing what they're doing.
To the end of August.
And potentially if there was any COVID-19 subliminal type of verbiage that we needed to give in order to adapt to policy changes.
Yeah, it was not made, I don't think, the last.
Okay. So that's still available. Jared, do you believe that's still something that's in force?
I believe that I'll have to go back because I think it was 4 meetings ago when we approved it. But I thought it was until the end of the school year.
That's my recollection as well.
Yeah, I think Jared's right.
I agree.
All right. So since we're talking about policies, why don't we make a motion to cover for the summer?
Do you have the craft for that, Jared?
Yeah, are you talking the verbiage to be used? I'd have to go back in prior meeting minutes, which I don't have up right now.
Hold on.
I can find it. So from the March 15th meeting, the motion was to approve the superintendent's emergency operations plan for COVID-19 as a temporary regulation to policy EBCF, pandemic epidemic emergencies, and to grant the superintendent or his designee authorization to respond at his discretion to changing public health circumstances and to allow the superintendent the ability to modify or adapt school board policy as needed with an update provided at the next school board meeting.
Okay. So there's the motion. Who would like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion. Do we need to put an end time on that to be through the summer?
Yeah, we could do that, right, Brian? I mean, that's usually.
We could just go to the next school board meeting.
Yeah, to the next
successful,
scheduled,
yeah.
To the
next successful school board meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Jared. So Jared's going to make that motion. Who would like to second?
I will second.
Oh, Tim will second. All right, I'm going to take a roll call. Dan,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Susanna,
Yes.
Janelle,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
Ginny,
Yes.
Retta,
Yes.
and Heather, yes. So we're unanimous. Did you get all that, Denise? All right, thank you. All right, thank you, Jared, for bringing that up. All right, so we are moving on to CIP committee. Ellen, that's you.
Yep. When you guys were at your 2 school board meetings a couple Thursdays ago, I was at CIP. Again, Jim Raymond is our chair. Went over all the responsibilities and whatnot of this committee. Library did a presentation and the fire department did a presentation. Just as a quick FYI, the library is looking at an expansion down the road, and the new fire chief put what last year was called the safety complex on hold until he looks at it some more. So that was one of the things that had me concerned looking down the road for the town as a bigger picture. So that's not on CIP any longer at this point. The next meeting is this Thursday at 7 o'clock, and it's the Parks and Rec and the Police Department presenting. The school district presents on Thursday, July 16th. So we'll be going over all of our stuff at that time. I do have sort of two topics I'd like to ask the board to have a little discussion on the school district CIP. One is for everybody to realize, and the public mainly, our building committee is on hold until we can get back into things again. So there really is nothing that we can concretely say we want to be doing in 4 years or something like that. Not that. I am a little concerned that we do not even have a placeholder at the very end of the CIP year, with 5 years down the road. We have nothing there. But I would just leave that with you to know that there's nothing there right now. And how the board feels about that is up to the board to think. Given today's circumstances and the economy and stuff, I don't know how people would feel about the school district putting a multi-million-dollar project even 5 years out without any details or specifics. But I wanted to put that out there for your consideration. But the other thing, which is more imminent, I guess you would say, our high school bond is up, and I know I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, in 2022, I believe. Somewhere in 2022, 21-22 school year. At that point, I don't know how often this happens in history, but our school district will have no bond payments. They'll be all gone, all done. I've been wondering if the board, and I'm not positive if we agreed to do this, it goes on CIP or not. So I need that feedback. But if we wouldn't consider an appropriate timing of it, March of whatever year, I don't know, it'd be probably 2021, I guess. Take the amount of money that is currently being used to pay the bond that we raise through taxation. It's my understanding to be about 350,000, and create a capital reserve fund specifically to address school space needs in the future, to help defer those costs when they come up to us, when they're happening. I think this would be the first time ever the school district could do what the town side is always doing, and that is building those funds for those really big expenses over a period of years. And I'm wondering if the school board, how the school board feel about that. I'd like to hear from administration as well. And is it something we want to put in or should put in CIP for the appropriate year?
Thank you, Ellen. Dan, I see your hand.
Thanks, Ellen. So you're suggesting, excuse me, a separate and distinct warrant article.
Yes.
So we have the CRF to do what we do, like we just did tonight for the gym floor, and then something specifically that the people can say, hey, listen, let's get ready so that when we have a multi-million-dollar project, we're not asking you for all this money up at once.
Right.
That's not a bad idea at all.
And it's not impacting it's not adding to the taxes. It's keeping them where they are now with regard to,
right.
You know,
Right.
We could go the other route and just not have any bond payment. But that, I would think, could be considered, in my thinking, a little short-sighted, in that if we could build that fund up over however many years it's going to take before we know we have to do something at some point somewhere for school needs, if for no other reason based on the age of some of our schools, that we build on it like the town side does for the big fire trucks and whatever, and they have years to build up that account. So that's what I'm wondering if the board would consider putting that in our CIP, if that's an appropriate place to put it. I look at Scott for that one. I don't know if it's appropriate on CIP or not.
Right. Ginny, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
It makes sense to me, especially where there's no building aid now, that if we could create our own building aid process, it might be a really good idea.
Thank you, Jenny. Scott or Brian, do you want to say anything
Yeah,
about this?
if I could, I happen to agree 100% with what Ellen is proposing. I think it's prudent to do it.
Mhm.
What I wanted to share with you is that your high school bond will expire in the 21-22 school year.
So nice.
And right now, you're looking at with between principal and interest of about 600 and I don't know $640,000, give or take. You get building aid. You got building aid of almost 270,000, and it diminishes every year. So you're probably looking at like a $350,000 net in terms of what you could deposit into that fund, and it would have, as Ellen said, really no tax impact because your bond is expiring. You're no longer getting that $250,000 in school building aid, but by the same token, you're also not paying 600,000 in plus for for your bond and interest. So I think it's a good move, and I think it's something that it would probably be on your March 22 budget warrant article to create that fund. And then if it were to pass, and let's just say that you put in an amount of say $350,000, $400,000, it would not raise, it would be neutral in terms of your revenues and your expenditures for tax purposes. So I think it's a good move.
Thank you, Scott. Tim, I saw your hand up.
I think ultimately this would be a good piece to send to the voters because Ellen's right. It would have to be determined by a warrant article. So, I think this would be something where we should just leave it up to the voters to decide. I don't think we should necessarily, bake something in, leave it to them.
Mhm.
If I may, absolutely, Tim. But my thought is, and if I'm wrong, I think it's something I don't know, Scott, Brian, does this go into our CIP for 2020?
Well, Brian
Creation of this CRF.
had his hand up, I think wants to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in. I agree. I do think this is a good idea. I think it could be a bit of a heavy lift with the budget committee. So that might be something that if we were going to consider this for the warrant in 22, we might want to start that conversation with the budget committee this year, even though it's not necessarily going on the 21 warrant.
Right.
I know how many years it took to consider the creation of the capital reserve fund that we do have. So I think we should start that journey early with them.
So
Right.
putting it on CIP, if that's an appropriate thing to do, and that's what the board wants to do for 2022, might be a good way to start that discussion among all the other boards and committees in town.
Jared, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I would propose to the body that we don't necessarily need to wait for 2022 to put a motion to the voters. What we could do is in March of 2021, at least put to the voters the creation and authorization for us to spend out of that account, but not place any money in that account for 2021. So, if we're really talking about, getting the voters involved, getting the budget committee involved, we could put that as a warrant article to at least say the creation of the account and the authorization. And then if it's approved, I would agree, let's put that on the CIP the following cycle, which would be this time next year. I think that would be the prudent approach. That way we get voters to give us some information. And hopefully at that time, we'll have that space needs subcommittee reestablished and providing information out to the public as well.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Now, when do we don't usually talk about CIP until around budget time, right? Fall time?
Well, we're doing
Even later.
Later that we would then discuss if we should put this on that. Is this something that would go on that?
It certainly could. I think that Ellen could certainly let the CIP committee know this is something we're exploring for next year.
Mhm.
And I think that would be the appropriate time to do it. I think it's a clever strategy.
So would we be, I would be letting them know that we're thinking of putting the creation of this new CRF in 2021, but not starting to fund it until the bond is done. And
Right.
then to keep it going. Then my question is, do we put it on CIP or not, or just let them know?
I think you could put it on CIP next year.
So not this year, but no, we could put it in for 2022,
Yes.
the funding of it. Okay. Is
Scott?
that the,
What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I think, I mean, again, the timing of this is that since it expires in the 21-22 school year, if you put it on the ballot, again, you could do it if you want to do it next year in March and create the fund and then fund it the following year. You're free to do what you think is best there. But in terms of the timing, in terms of when your payments expire, the right time would be to place that deposit in the FY 22-23 school year.
oh, 22, 23, the first deposit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it would be July of 2022 is when you'd make your deposit into it based upon authorization at the March 22 vote.
Okay. All right. Does the board need to take a motion on this, or are you by consensus giving okay for me to and the administration to go forward with this?
Go ahead, Scott.
I think if you're going to add something to CIP, that probably should be a motion, Ellen, because that's something that I'll be just me. I would think that you would want that to have that a motion to do it.
Yep.
Dan?
How do I place this? We're not going to go forward in the next, are you asking in the next couple of meetings to formally add something to the CIP of this nature?
To put it on the matrix, on the 5-year matrix.
Yeah, I think what Ellen is suggesting, Dan, is that in the year 2022-23, that it would be a place marker where it might be like $400,000 for a deposit for a CRF, basically, and then the revenue source would be taxation, but Ellen would have to explain that because the bond is being retired at the high school, it would be neutral.
Yeah, I tell you what, you did not give me enough time to really process all of this.
Right.
Minutes
That's why I
is
was
just too
asking
quick.
when we talk about CIP, if we could do it at that time.
Yeah,
Which is like fall, winter.
Well, except CIP is going on now for the next 5 years. And,
yeah, but it's going to go on next year for the next 5 years too.
I know, but then we're at the year when, if we're looking to put this CRF in, although we're not looking to deposit money.
No, it'll be about at the right time, because this is 20. The next time it'll be
We would put it in CIP for 2020. What'd you tell me, Scott? 3.
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable with it, is what I'm saying, even though it would go on the far out. I'm not against it, but I'm more probably in favor of having it as a special warrant article, which would have to be funding source for it anyway. But I'm not. If someone comes up to me, hey, we just threw something in on a CIP and we had a 15-20 minute conversation at the last board meeting, I'm not comfortable talking about it yet because I don't think we've totally flushed it out.
Just as an FYI, I have raised this several times in the past year. So it's not the first time it's being raised for the board to consider. I'm just wondering if we should have the board. I understand your concern, Dan. I'm just looking at, we're presenting to CIP, and to have something in there for this in 2023, I would think would be wise, but up to you guys.
I do not mind raising it as a note of discussion with them so that the verbiage is out there, but officially placing it on the matrix, I need to hear from other people because I'm not there yet.
Right. Thank you, Dan. Brian, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I was just going to share it. It might make sense to wait to put it on the CIP matrix until it's approved by the voters. So if the creation of the CRF is indeed approved by the voters in March of 21, that would likely be the logical time to then put it on the CIP matrix.
Okay,
Right.
but
And
I'll let them know about it. Okay.
yeah, I mean, I think that everybody, this was not really going to be discussed tonight, but I think I agree with your points, Ellen, and I think we need to move forward. If everybody can just think about it, and then we can talk about it again during budget season or when we start working on adding to our matrix
Okay.
for the CIP.
Thank you, everyone.
So thank you, Ellen. Did anybody else have any questions or comments for Ellen? Oh, Ginny, go ahead. Oh, you're muted, Ginny. There you go.
This is not a question for Ellen. It's about something else. Can I?
Okay.
It's a CNE question. I'm just wondering, we had initially talked about a GHS summer reading program. Has that been discontinued for this summer?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Dan, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to get back to the previous and just, tell Ellen thanks for the hard work, because I know during the summer is not easy. I know
Right.
we've got stuff to do, and going to the budget meetings and going to the CIP meetings aren't easy. So I appreciate you guys for doing that.
Thank you, Dan. All right, so if we're good, we're going to move on to superintendent report. Brian, that's you.
Thank you. So the administration continues to work very hard on our reopening planning, and we have been meeting multiple times a week, all administrators, and we're now just getting into the next stage of our planning, which is that the reopening framework that the board is familiar with, each school is creating a team that will represent all the different employees and folks in our schools. So there'll be teachers, there'll be support staff, and various people will be working on the individual school reopening plan based on the framework. So that work, we are going to be paying people who participate in that process this summer using Title IIA money. Mrs. Barry was very creative about some of her grant planning. So we're going to be able to do that through a professional development support. So that work has started, and schools are working hard on that. All the administrators have committed to continuing to have an all administration meeting all summer long. So we set up a reoccurring meeting just because July is going to go fast, and we're going to be meeting again in early August to take a look at reopening. I would anticipate that the governor will leave the decision to reopen schools at a local level. I think that the COVID cases look very different depending on what county you're in. If you're in Hillsborough County or Rockingham County, it's a very different situation than if you're in Coos County or Grafton County or Belknap. So I think that that's likely what we'll be looking at. We have floated a couple of different dates for an early August meeting, and I think Mrs. Moran has some information on that. I wanted to let everyone know that the SAU has launched a new required online PD module specific to harassment and anti-discrimination for all employees. The module was authored by Primex and is included in one of the several modules required to be completed by staff members. Other modules include things like bloodborne pathogens, Know and Tell, which is the big professional development initiative that we did this past spring to make sure that everyone is trained and knows their responsibilities of being mandatory reporters for suspected abuse and neglect. That would also include training on email and phishing, bullying, and some of those other topics. So support staff have already begun working on the modules, with the expectation that professional staff will work on that in preparation for next school year. It looks like the FDA is going to be extending the Food for Kids program over the summer. So if we're able to, we will continue to provide that service to our community. And Mrs. Bizzaro has, of course, done a great job. And in fact, I got a compliment from Carrie Jenks this evening, who had a parent contact her who was just so thrilled with the work that Megan and her great team have done. I wanted to go back to the data governance plan. And since we have Mr. Bourget here, he's certainly free to chime in. But your policy EHAB We have an annual notification to the board if there are any updates or changes that are needed. And Mr. Bourget has 2 updates. He updated policy references for EHAB since the current document states a policy will be developed. So he made that slight edit. And then in Appendix E, he updated some information around cloud storage and file sharing to reflect current practice based on new needs introduced by the pandemic. So I might pause there. And Mr. Bourget, did I capture that correctly? And is there anything else that you need to notify the board of?
Nope, that was it related to data governance.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. So I'll continue on. The board should have received the statement that I released this, I guess 2 weeks ago, or a week ago this past Friday, with respect to George Floyd. I never wanted anyone to misinterpret our silence as any kind of a lack of support. So I issued that statement that you should have all received. This past week, Mrs. Barry and I, along with about 40 teachers at the high school, participated in an equity and inclusion meeting that was held at the high school, looking at topics around racism and some of those concerns, and making sure that we're supporting our students as best we can. And our library media specialist put together teaching resources to assist teachers and parents in discussing topics around race. All of this really dovetails nicely with all the work that we had participated with the town last year during the crucial conversations, information that was done. We issued a reopening survey this past Friday, and within just a few hours, we had somewhere around 1,400 responses. I looked just prior to the meeting this evening, and we're up to almost 2,000. That survey will go until this Friday, so I'm hesitant to start to make any judgments, but I will just share about half of our parents believe that we should be reopening schools without any restrictions at all, and not requiring anything like face masks. So after that survey is closed, it's my intention to have Dr. Athena Chisholm work with us to compile. We added text boxes for parents, and we have almost 1,000 comments already. So we're going to need to put those into some kind of a logical, coherent structure, and Dr. Chisholm is the person to help us do that. I wanted to, because I need to let the board know if I make any policy alterations, I wanted to bring 2 or 3 circumstances that pertain to policy IKAF, which is our high school graduation requirement. The policy right now says, quote, "A senior must complete all graduation requirements in order to participate in graduation exercises unless granted special permission for extenuating circumstances." So I wanted to let the board know that I have approved 2 sets of special circumstances. They're very straightforward in my opinion. We have 2 students that were taking a credit recovery where they were finishing a class. Those classes have been finished. We just have not received final word for their transcript, but our school counselors did reach out and have affirmation of what their grades are. So I was fully comfortable in approving those 2. And then I have one that is a little more unique. And this would be one, if the board wanted to weigh in, you certainly could do so. So I have one other student who at this point has several classes that have not been finished. It is kind of a unique set of circumstances, but the student at this point has at least 1 credit that hasn't been determined for a plan, and the parents have asked for the student to be able to participate in graduation, but the student obviously wouldn't receive their diploma, nor would they receive their official high school transcript. So at this point, this is one that there are several classes that are being finished up that will be done in July. And then there's this 1 credit that they haven't developed a plan yet for this student. So before I was to either approve or deny this, because we had a meeting this evening, I did want to give the board the opportunity to weigh in if you were so inclined to do so.
Thank you, Brian. Does anybody have anything they want to say? I don't see anything, Brian.
Okay. I will interpret that if it is my judgment that given the pandemic that this might be a reasonable exception, that I will go ahead and do that if there doesn't appear to be board objection.
Yeah, I think that's what it seems. Everybody just will let you make that decision.
Okay, great. And my last piece would be that school ended last week. So I just again wanted to offer my appreciation to all of our faculty and staff, our families, our students. I know that this has been a real struggle for a lot of students, a lot of families, and hopefully we will be back to some sense of normalcy in the fall. Although I certainly do continue to have a pretty significant amount of public health concern associated with that. So I'm glad that we've done the work that we have. I had really wanted to have our reopening plans as close to done as we could in the month of June so that people could try to have a little bit of vacation time and a little downtime in the month of July, because I think I would prepare the board that you're going to have some very hard decisions to make in the beginning of August. So we will continue to have our planning done and ready. We also want to have the ability to review the information that comes out of the reopening task force and see if they come up with anything that we haven't already thought of or planned for. So at this point, I think that's probably unlikely, but we will certainly look with open eyes to see if there's anything else we need to include in our planning. But again, I would just share that one piece of data that half of our parents who have responded to the survey see no need for us to have any restrictions in the fall whatsoever. So I do think in addition to the logistical challenges, I think we're going to have some ideological and belief challenges associated with reopening as well. And with that, thank you. That's all I had this evening.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Ellen, I saw your hand up before. Did you have a question for Brian or a comment?
Just that whatever, however it's going to roll out in the fall, I would hope I don't know how we do it, but can give the option to those who have legitimate concerns. You know, if they have someone ill in home and that kind of thing, if we can accommodate that for at least a while into the school year.
That is part of our planning, Ellen. So
Okay.
if I have been personally contacted by a number of parents who have students with immune or
Yeah.
other health factors.
Right.
So that is something that we are anticipating and planning for.
Great.
All right. Thank you, Ellen. All right. So moving on, old business. Brian, graduation.
Well, graduation is this coming Wednesday. It looks a little hot and sticky, but it looks like the weather's going to cooperate. So we're very excited to be at Fisher Cat Stadium. I know that Mr. McBride and Mr. Huft, and I think a couple of others, Adam McCune was part of it, went to the bow graduation that was held at Fisher Cat Stadium. I think it was yesterday, right, Scott? Yesterday? Does that sound right? I believe it was yesterday. And Bo has a pretty significantly smaller group than we have. I think their graduating class is maybe around 100 and ours is almost 300. But it went well, no issues. I asked the high school to develop a very comprehensive emergency operations plan for graduation. And Mrs. Lewis took the lead on that and submitted it to me today. It's very well done. We have an informational video that Justin Huft made that was sent out to seniors today that lays out all of the expectations. So that has been released. And at this point, we're ready to go. I know I'm looking forward to it. You heard Mr. Gross share that the senior class will be paying for fireworks at the end of the evening. So I think it's going to be really, really fun and certainly memorable. I've attended an awful lot of graduations in my day, but I suspect that this one will take the cake. So we're ready to go, and hopefully the weather will cooperate and we'll have a great night.
Yes, I hope so. I'm glad there's no rain in the forecast. Thank you,
If
Brian.
I may, Heather,
Yes,
are board
go ahead,
members
Ellen.
going?
So we invited board members. We also invited members of the select board, as well as our town administrators in both Goffstown and New Boston. Mr. Gross, I don't know if you had any takers on that, but we thought it was a nice gesture to reach out, and we've, of course, we work so closely with the town that this made all the sense in the world to us. Senator D'Alessandro will be in attendance with his wife, so we'll look forward to seeing Lou. And any update on that, Scott?
In terms of, I don't think that any of the select board has responded, that I'm aware of. I know that Derek Horn, our administrator, had to decline. He had another commitment. So yeah, I think it's just Senator D'Alessandro. And, we are going to have some acknowledgements from the graduates from some of our elected officials at the state and national level too, which is kind of cool.
I did, Scott, I did email Justin Huff for a ticket. I have not heard back yet.
Yeah, I think you had a football jersey that you didn't return. And there's a registry that goes from Massachusetts to here. And I think once you settle up with that, you'll be able to get a ticket. I'm sorry.
About 12 years too late.
Nice. All right. So if there is nothing else on the high school graduation, then we'll move on to the Glen Lake project update. Mr.
Gross.
All right. So the good news is that they're pouring the floor of the foundation. I believe it's early next week. So after that, the pretty much the footings, all of the frost walls, all of that, and the floor itself will be poured. And now it's just a matter of waiting for the modular unit to be delivered, which I'm told is going to happen in the first or second week of July. After that, they'll start the construction of the connector building. And after that's done, then they start to deal with fire suppression systems and security systems and all the other kind of fun stuff. They're also going to be repaving. If you know, you probably saw from those photographs, they did in order to lay the sewer pipes and the water pipes, they ripped up the asphalt sidewalk, and all of that's also going to be paved, I think, late this week. So things are progressing nicely. Randy's done a real nice job with that particular project. Weekly meetings on that front. And in case you didn't know, we also have a New Boston project as well. So Randy and I have been kind of busy making sure that those projects stay on track over the summer.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Brian, was there anything you wanted to add to that? No?
Nope. Great job, Scott. They're on right now. We're ahead of schedule and on budget. So for a project, that's exactly where you want to be.
Good. All right, so now we're moving on to the regulation CBEF-R acceptable use policy. There was a added line on number 4.
Yeah, I think it was actually just an omission on our part. Mrs. Berry, I might ask you to speak to this, or Mrs. Moran, that I think that what's in quotes was it was part of what went through PRC, and then when we actually approved it and published it, we neglected to include the words "to harass or bully others is prohibited." So we just wanted to make that very minor amendment to GBEFR.
I actually, Stephen, if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, that's really, we seem to have lost those few pieces in there, and the text in the policy at the moment is reading, if I can find the document. Yeah, without that text in there, that part of the policy is reading, use of any district network or resources is prohibited in the acceptable use policy.
And it's supposed to say prohibited to harass or bully others, right?
Yep. Yes, it's supposed to say use of any district or network resource to harass or bully others is prohibited.
All right, thank you, Steve. Dan, I saw your hand up, and then Ellen. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Dan.
I don't remember if I asked this question at the time we adopted this or readopted. Number one, there's nowhere in this document that I know of, perhaps in the original, where the word academic is defined. So if, Ryan, you use the network, are you in violation of this policy, or are you academic because you're administration? So you're sending an email that's purely administration. Scott, go ahead and buy that. That's not academic, potentially, unless we have something that says it is. That's number one, right off. It's only good for academic stuff. Now, we're having a meeting right now, and we may be using services. Zoom is being paid for by the district. Is that in violation, or is this an academic conversation? I'll let you guys grab this now.
Thanks, Dan. Brian, Scott, Steve, who wants to?
I would defer to the policy review committee on that question.
Except we're not meeting.
Yeah, we haven't met in a while.
I would, my advice would be to make this minor adjustment. And then if the policy review committee wanted to readdress that when they take it back up, it might be a little bit of a stretch, but I would think that the end result of everything that we do is academically based in its intent. So I would recommend just make this change. And then when that policy committee gets back to its work, and I know they have other sort of more pressing things perhaps, but that could be addressed at a later point.
Would we mind adding to the minutes physically that we're discussing this, and our current analysis is the word academic is broadly described? And I agree, just to make the little change, but to think a little more globally as we go forward.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Ellen, did you have something?
Yeah, two things. If we could, I think MC is gone. If we can make sure this gets put on.
She's still here.
She's still here someplace?
Mhm.
Oh, there she is. Okay. She'll put it on her radar. We just discussed in this meeting 2 policies with minor adjustments to it, but no voting. Questioning, can we do that? Or doesn't this have, it's actually, these are amendments to the policies.
Well, Ellen, GBEF-R is a regulation.
Thank you. That can just be changed, yes.
Thank you.
And the other policy, was that a reg? No, policy DFA. Wasn't there something?
DFA, that was a
Investment.
that was our investment that
Investment.
we are reviewing, and we did review.
Okay, but we didn't ask for any change. I thought there was another policy we discussed about a slight revision. But if I'm wrong, that's okay.
Oh, the EHAB, Brian, that was.
Yeah, that was just my interpretation of the graduation policy. We actually didn't change anything, so.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ellen. All right, so we don't need a motion for this, or do we? Just because it's a regulation. What was that, Brian?
You certainly can. It wouldn't hurt anything to make the motion.
All right.
Yeah, I would like to. I'll go ahead and make the motion that we adopt correcting policy GBEF-R by adding the words to item number 4, to harass or bully others.
Is prohibited.
Well, I think is prohibited is already in there. So I don't have to add those words. They're already there.
All right, thank you, Dan. Do I have a second? Ginny is seconding. Oh, Jared, go ahead before I do roll call.
Yeah, just as a question of formalities, because we're not necessarily going through a first read with a policy change, do we need to also indicate that we are bypassing our policies of not going through a first and second read?
No, this is not a policy, it's a regulation.
Is it listed in the, okay, so it's not coming out of policy committee or anything like that?
Correct. Does MC, do you want to clarify that?
It is a regulation, and Jared, this is just a miss. It was in the proposed regulation, and because of the multiple changes, I think, in the crossouts and things, we missed it. It's that simple, and we're just looking to have it added back in.
So regulations, we don't need to go through first and second read?
Not according, I don't believe, to policy. No, we have policy
Okay.
and regulation.
All right, so if we're all good, I'm going to do a roll call. We have a motion, we have a second. Dan,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Susanna,
Yes.
Janelle,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
Ginny,
Yes.
Retta. She said yes, Denise. And Heather, yes. We're unanimous. Thank you. All right, so new business, I have nothing. Is there any new business? Nope. All right, moving on to school staffing.
Mr. Gross, can you put the sheet up, please?
Yep, just give me 1 second. All right. Okay.
So we have just a couple of, one notification for a track change for Jennifer Rocheleau, moving from Bachelor's 15 to Bachelor's 30. So we will send her a congratulatory letter. And for your approvals, we have we have 2 resignations, Heather Pierce from Mountain View Middle School and Emily Runaud from Mountain View Middle School. And we should, I guess, probably do these in groups.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. All right, so I'll need a motion to accept the teacher resignations. I can't see everybody's chat.
This is Ellen. I'll move it.
Okay, Ellen, thank you. Do I have a second? Ginny is seconding. All right, roll call. Dan,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Tim,
Yep.
Susanna,
Yes.
Janelle,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
Ginny,
Yes.
Retta,
Yes.
and Heather, yes. We're unanimous, Denise. Okay, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the next one, it was Chris Groves, right, Scott?
Yeah, retirement.
So Chris has made the decision that she's going to go ahead and retire. So Chris Groves is a great teacher, great Bartlett teacher. We're happy for her. Extend our congratulations, and we will miss her. So we would look for your approval on the retirement of Chris Groves.
Move to accept the retirement.
Thank you, Ellen. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Retta, thank you. Roll call. Dan,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Susanna,
Yes.
Janelle,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
Ginny,
Yes.
Retta,
Yes.
and Heather, yes. We're unanimous. Okay, Brian.
Scott, if you could put that back up for me.
Hold on. Sorry.
So we have a resignation from Bill Ryan, who we're sad to see retire as our GAP director. Again, I've known Bill for the better part of 20 years. Bill's a very good and decent, caring man, and we will miss him very much. So we are in the process now of looking for a new director for the GAP program, but we would be accepting the resignation of Mr. Ryan.
So moved. Ellen?
Okay, Ellen, second by Ginny. All right, roll call. Dan?
Yes.
Oh,
Would you add with regret to that?
We will to both of them, Ginny.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
all right, so I did Dan. Ellen,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Susanna,
Yes.
Janelle,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
Ginny,
Yes.
Retta,
Yes.
and Heather, yes. We're unanimous.
And lastly, I think, Scott, I've got this one if you want to go ahead and put this down. I am pleased to be recommending Josh Lewis as our assistant principal. That sheet identifies him as interim for the year. I think that was the preference of Mrs. Kohler, but we're pleased to bring the nomination of Josh Lewis, who has been our Dean of Students this year. Josh has done a great job. Very professional, very smart man, hard worker, and we just couldn't be more proud of Josh. So we're we'd like to keep him on the team and to have him replace Mr. Demers. And the amount he is, we could talk about it in non-public, but he's a little less experienced than Mr. Demers, so we're well within budget. So no issues or considerations there. And we're pleased to be recommending Josh Lewis.
All right, thank you, Brian. So do we want to make are we going into non-public to discuss him further and then we would make a motion to approve, or do we make a motion to approve now?
Yeah, if you're comfortable, I can give you my assurance that we're well within the salary parameters within the budget.
Okay, Dan, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I believe, discussed the personnel matter 2 weeks ago, which this was the subject matter, and there are no changes from that particular subject matter, correct?
Correct.
Just the answer that I have no need to go into non-public.
Okay, Ellen?
I'll move that we accept this nomination.
All right, Ellen makes a motion to accept. Do I have a second?
I will second it. This is Susanna.
Seconded, thank you. All right, I'll do a roll call. Dan?
Heather,
Oh,
Heather,
yes, I'm
before
sorry.
you do that, can I just ask, is this, we're taking out the word interim? He's being appointed to the position, or is this as an interim?
This is as an interim at this point.
Okay.
That was the last piece that Wendy and I had talked about. So at this point, we would do that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so anyone else have any questions, comments before I do roll call? All right, so Dan,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Susanna,
Yes.
Janelle,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
Ginny,
Yes.
Retta,
Yes.
and Heather, yes, we're unanimous. All right, so any more else on the staffing, Brian?
Nope.
Okay, so any other business that may legally come before the meeting? Ellen?
I think it would, are we not revisiting the SSS nomination?
We're going to do that in non-public.
Non-public, okay.
Yep.
I don't think we did it before, although we discussed this, the reauthorization, was that concluded to go through? Did we come to conclusion on that, to go through the summer?
Yes, for the policies we did.
Authorizing the superintendent or his designee to continue with business?
Yeah, that was all done at the last meeting, Ellen.
Yeah.
We did that at the last meeting.
Just
to
that
the
we did.
policy, the emergency part of it was not.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
All right, any other questions before we go into non-public? All right, so I'll need a motion to go into non-public session RSA 91-A semicolon 3, 2, A and C. A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the discipline of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him or her, unless the employee affected has a right to a meeting and request the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted. And C, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the public body itself, unless such person requests an open meeting. This exemption shall extend to any application for assistance or tax abatement or waiver of a fee, fine, or other levy if based on inability to pay or poverty of the applicant.
So moved.
Thank you, Dan. Do I have a second? By Ginny. Okay, roll call. Dan,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes,
Tim,
Yes.
Susanna,
Yes.
Janelle,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
Ginny,
Yes.
Retta,
Yes.
and Heather. Yes. So
Yes.